Afternoon, everybody. I'm Steve DeMello. I'm Director of Healthcare here at CITRIS. I'd like to welcome you all today, as well as our folks who are web viewing, to the research update presentation for today. A couple of short announcements, as is our wont. First is that a reminder that our companion series, the I for Energy talks, are starting as well, and the next one will be this Friday. And also, for those folks who are interested in the Big Ideas competition, we'll be making the announcement very shortly for this year's competition. Word of advice in advance, the structure of the application and the process will be a little bit different this year, so please, if you're interested, pay attention early because some of the rules and approaches to this will be a little bit different going forward. It's my pleasure today to introduce Xiao, who's founder and editor-in-chief of China Digital Times, a bilingual Chinese news website. He's also an adjunct professor at the Graduate School of Journalism here at UC Berkeley and a visiting researcher and principal investigator of the Counter Power Lab at the School of Information, also here at UC Berkeley. Theoretical physicist by training, Xiao studied at the University of Science and Technology of China and entered the PhD program in astrophysics at the University of Notre Dame. He became a full-time human rights activist after the Tiananmen massacre in 1989. He was the executive director of the New York-based NGO Human Rights in China from 1991 to 2002, and vice chairman of the steering committee of the World Movement for Democracy. Xiao is also a recipient of the MacArthur Fellowship in 2001. He teaches classes on digital activism, China reporting, and human rights at both the School of Information and the Graduate School of Journalism here, and he runs the Counter Power Lab, an interdisciplinary faculty-student research group focusing on the intersection of internet freedom, social media, and digital activism. Please join me in welcoming Xiao, speaking on China Digital Times, measuring the political pulse of Chinese cyberspace.
Thank you. Thank you. Apologize for the late and awkwardness to make my computer working for you. It is certainly a privilege to be here, particularly after I studied physics for 10 years, came to UC Berkeley in 1989, attending an astrophysics conference, and fell in love with the university and the place. I wanted to come here ever since. But my life took a turn. I became a full-time human rights activist from 1989, Tiananmen massacre in China, to 2003. And I had an opportunity, finally, came to UC Berkeley at the School of Journalism, which now I'm still holding my position. However, I'm speaking to you today not so much from a journalistic perspective. Maybe an activist, certainly not a technologist. But after all, it's just want to share some of the work I do over the years since I came to Berkeley and the work I'm planning to do. Take this as not a research agenda, but an open invitation to all of you to somewhat my own path to connect to China through the cyberspace. Since I cannot go back to China ever since 1989. So this is the title of my talk, which probably doesn't make too much sense. Just have a sense of how many of you are from technology background. Please raise your hand. Yes, this is CITRIS. Thank you. So I come to Berkeley. How many of you have been China? Okay. I envy all of you. Now, my only connection to China now is in Chinese cyberspace, day and out. Since I came here in 2003, I got myself into two things. One is social media. The blog was just starting. And second is the rise of the blogging or rise of the internet inside of China. So my first slide today is a storytelling. I'm planning to show is something you don't really need to look at it. It's just how many internet users in China and how pervasive and widely spread. You can see that everywhere. This is my favorite picture. This is how Chinese people cannot live without cell phone in the streets. Just like all of you. This is coming from a human rights background. Naturally, the question is, for the state, not only internet is an indispensable development technology for China, for the economic boom, which gave the Chinese Communist Party a legitimacy politically, but how to control it to make sure it's not subversive. This has come from leaders' own words. Right? Whether we can cope with the internet is a matter of facts of development of, here's their own words, socialist culture, the security of information, that's the coded word, and stability of the state. So the next one is the internet is not working quite to me, but here it is. Again, there's no need to talk to a lot of it. In China, you have this word called meme melody, which basically means, it's not means particular old ideology such as Marxism, or actually Marxism pretty much being banned in China. That type of ideology, but it's organized ideology to support the regime, justify and give a legitimacy to the current power status quo. And that, what I call the legitimizing discourse. I list a few methods of controlling. That's becoming part of my work in the first few years, is to track down who is controlling, through what method and how, etc. And then to see how the state apparatus dominate the network and the content of network in China. Now, the next one is something I'm going to stay for a little longer time. This translated drawing is not an academic map, but it is a pretty, I can't find more accurate than this one, from Chinese netizens. It's a collaborative online work. Everybody contributes something to draw their mind that who are controlling internet. The blue are the netizens, and their internet enterprises and businesses. All the red parts are the government agencies. Each one of them have some kind of power exerting on the internet. If you think just one agency in China deal with this, or you only heard one office, then you're wrong. You often heard of a Great Firewall, which is on the national gateway border, that to filtering and monitoring the information in and out of China. And that, in this map, again, this is not an academically researched map, but it's coming from a crowdsourcing, that, where's the GFW, Great Firewall? Let me give a name. It's somewhere here. See it? It's a very little piece of the whole thing. You will see a lot. Central Propaganda Department, that's the highest level. You will see broadcasting media. You will see CCTV, Central General Administration of Press and Publication, Ministry of Culture, and here's an agency called State Council Information Office, which is used to be an obscure PR office in the Chinese State Council of State. When internet just started from China, in China, there's a natural question: who's going to control the content on it? At that moment, in the middle of the 90s, the government agencies actually, most of them didn't want it. The most powerful organization is the Central Communist Party's Propaganda Department, control all the media. They don't even want this job. It's dangerous, it's useless, it's no money. It's only a bunch of foreigners are using the internet. So the State Council of Information Office got that mandate. Over the last 10 years, that agency grows tremendously. Money, resources, power. The head of that agency has been moved up all the way to the Central Committee, and their boss coming into the Politburo. And it's coming from an internal note from one of the internal meeting of this agency. They internally refer themselves to say, we are the most powerful agency in China. We decide what's on the internet, what's not. So this map nearly can reflect the real power map on the Chinese internet. And once the Chinese internet users or internet netizens and entrepreneurs, technologists, they're all here somewhat trying to media people. There are also some here and trying to sort of make a living or make innovation or make a progress in this general power-laden situation. So they coming back a little. I have this thing called Directives of Ministry of Truth. And what is that? This, let's give to the website I'm talking about. The website I started since I came to school of journalism in 2003. Started officially in 2004. It's called China GeoTimes. This is something I'm talking about. That has, it's a basically English news aggregator of China and have some of my translated and reporting sections, which is, since I'm doing this work out of the School of Journalism, there is some of the original contents that this project has been contributing. And the one particular content I have been contributing it is this column called, it's a translation called Directives of a Ministry of Truth. Ministry of Truth is coming from 1994 article, George Orwell's article, book. It's the Chinese journalists and bloggers called not only Ministry of Propaganda, but also State Council of Information or State Press Agency, whoever the state organ issuing censorship and propaganda directives and manipulating and control the online content. So they got a nickname called Minister of Truth. And if, as a matter of fact, if you search the Minister of Truth, if inside of China you search this word, you got a no search result can be found. If you search, for example, the Chinese microblogging space, Sina Weibo. But if you search it outside of China, Ministry of Truth, you'll find all these propaganda departments directives that are being leaked by the Chinese journalists and editors. They used to be considered, still considered, top state secrets, but nevertheless being leaked online almost daily basis. If you think WikiLeaks is a leak, this one is much higher order of the United States government diplomat order of the cable contents, because that was, after all, just some cable content between the embassies to the State Department. And this is much higher level classified in China, that what being censored, what's not. I'm trying to find one example for you to see what that is. Let's see. Is this one is? No. Here to go. This is Directives of Ministry of Truth. And this is one article, just one particular. You have dozens of those things every day to the different newspapers and agencies. But here's one of them. Anyone remember? Remember the recently big news, Chinese high-speed train crashing. The high-speed railway is considered a symbol of Chinese development, the proud glory of China, faster than any other train in the world. And the Ministry of Railway said China self-invented a lot of technology as well. So it's a poster child of the Chinese rise of China. And unfortunately, tragically, crashed, and dozens of people, if not more, died just only about a month ago, 2 months ago. That was a unfortunate event. But much more revealing is the government reaction to it. They're trying to cover the evidence. They're trying to not let the public inquiry what's really caused it. And they're trying to suppress all the media to report it. And trying to spin the story to how government that timely and full of love rescuing people. And they treated the victim and their families terribly because they needed the railway run right away. And they don't care about their personal belongings or their bodies or whether find it or not. And so far, until now, 2 months later, there's no list of victims being publicized. It caused national anger and on the internet. After the large public pressure, they admit some part. At the beginning, they said the reason is lightning, but it's not lightning. Now they said it's a signaling system that has some problem. Well, then a few days later, here is one directive coming from the Beijing Municipal Chinese Communist Party Propaganda Department to all news unit, subcoordinated city, concerning the issue of signal system currently in use of the Beijing subway system. Beijing subway system is coming from the same company of that high railway crashing signal system. Therefore, this order is saying, don't report the fact. Don't anyone mention the fact that Beijing subway system are using the signal system are from the same product of that company. End of the story. So they don't want the public to ask more questions, even relating to their daily safety. And this is a normal. This is not exception. I'm just giving you one example. But this is being reviewed. Somebody posted online. Look at it here. Go check it out. And it's this kind of stuff on the Chinese internet all the time. And some of my work, research work, is to find the best ways to retrieve them, to archive them, to verify them, and to publicize them, and to disseminate them. So that is what I call the mystery of truth. If you search that even in English, you'll find a lot of articles mentioning this event. And then let's moving to the next slide, which is the, if you look at here, I have two more words. One is called GFW list, which is actually easy to understand. GFW represents the Great Firewall. GFW list are the list of the websites that's blocked. How many? Anybody have a guess? How many websites the Chinese government national gateway trying to block? Got it. Right. At least at that level. We're not talking about 1,000. We're not talking about tens of thousands. We're talking about a gigantic number of it. Lots of them are over-blocking, just because they bluntly block IP addresses, so a lot of the other could be got. Or the DNS pollution, hijacking, etc. As a matter of fact, the research on the mechanism is one of the urgent, what I call the counter-censorship research task that need to be done in this general internet freedom field. But how do you detect this list? Easy, many ways. Harvard Berkeley Center had done some studies years ago, and there's a couple of other research units that have done it. But my one, which again coming from crowdsourcing, was coming from very different ways. It's coming from the internet users submit out of their own experience which one's blocked, submitting to a database, reporting to it, and updating it by themselves. The good part of that is that the quality of lists is much higher because there's no use of looking at millions because they're all kind. You couldn't find a pattern behind it because there's so much overblocking. But if it's coming from users' experience, those sites that are being blocked has some reason that a user wants to use it. It could be porn, but it could be political, it could be technology, it could be other things. But there have some use for the people, netizens inside of China. So that list had much higher quality. But why people submit that? There's an incentive, there's motivation, and why they keep it. that is a sort of a research issue, but it's also a very interesting one, that what makes the community actively want to do this. Now, there's also another thing called sensitive words. That is another sort of catalog of political discourse I've been documenting, because one of the basic ways to control the internet content is to using keywords blocking, from publishing something to search something to access some information. Internet portals are using it, internet content providers are using it, national level or provincial level, different level of internet control agencies are using it, such technology. Therefore, if one to document that what are these words are and how many of them, in what situation they're using, it's a whole lot more useful. So I just give you an example. If anyone of you know Chinese, you will see it. Here's a list, just feel simple. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 list of incomplete list of those sensitive words. Some of them from the publishing software, some are from search companies, some are from the short messaging service. Like if you do a short messaging on touch particular keyword, well, then your message, sorry, cannot publish it, etc. And some from internet forums. And here's just an example of that. This is from microblogging, CNA microblogging, that what kind of sensitive words are there. This is relating to one particular news event. It's not even news. It's a rumor of the former President Jiang Zemin died in the hospital. He didn't. At least the government denied it. But the rumor caused a huge online sort of gossip. And then the government tried to block this political gossip by using all these words have been used, trying to block the search result or publishing result of that one single event, including allegedly his mistress, including allegedly the popular song sang by his mistress, etc., etc. So anything related to him, including his home, high school, etc. Anything relating to him and his name and anything. His name happened to be called Qiang, which is also means river. And first, because of technological error, for about 10 hours, every river in China on the internet in that cyberspace being blocked, just because they don't want people to search for his name. But that crude technology being improved every 10 hours later. But to show this kind of things, and this is about June 4th, this is how many words relating to it, etc., etc. You can keep on going on. And we're talking about thousands of those words and hundreds of those kind of lists. And they largely overlap, but they also constantly have something new. That's what I call sensitive words, and that's what I call the one of another thing I have been measuring. And keep on going, and gradually you'll see a pattern, and that's starting making sense to you. Voice of the voiceless. And of course, it goes without saying, before the internet, there's many things that you cannot say in China, or have no way to publicly saying it, or nobody will be interested, migrant workers living in the city and how much wage they make. Which public media will interest? No. Or a corruption case that how many mistresses this official had, that's only in the rumor of people's dining table, will never get into the public space, but with the internet, all of these things happens. So here, I'm going to stay here for slightly longer to give you another kind of map of Chinese political, internet political map. And this one I draw myself. You see the top up left corner is the Central Propaganda Department, sort of top-down control power that trying to control all the information, media, and online. And then you will see these three spaces. This is the media space, this is the internet space, and this is outside of China internet space. But horizontally, what you see, what I call the political contents spectrum, it's kind of like U.S., you have a liberal and conservative electron. This one is close to the CCP, what I call it legitimizing discourse. So anything in this space, content more or less, it's to say that how the state doing great, nothing need to be changed. And the second one, what we call resistance discourse. that will reform discourse, that will starting to criticize, and that will starting to raise questions, and even more, so they will raise even harsher questions and have larger voices. And that's largely existing on the internet. For the state media, you probably get to that level. That's it. Anything more than that will not happen because they're still too close to the power. But on the internet, that's where the most lively content. But on this side, the more darker blue to the dark, what I call the forbidden contents, or the subversive discourse, or censored discourse. In China, within China, even on the internet, you only have very few because the internet policing will make sure they disappear. But those kind of contents will be only happens outside of China, the Great Firewall. And then that's where my China GeoTimes content mostly coming from those blocked and censored, and from those what I call the resistance discourse that hardly ever make to the mainstream media, but constantly in battling at this space. And you see the different Great Firewall is not waterproof at all. That's part of my work, trying to make it even leaking more. If you see those arrows, you will see that's how information goes. Well, again, I'm giving you a very rough sketch of how the Chinese internet political dynamics going. Again, this is an invitation to you to help me, to join me, technologically or from your knowledge, to make this work more effective. So look at this map again. The China GeoTimes, my website, is allocated here, not the English one. If you read the English one, you just mostly there's daily news aggregator about China with some translations. This is a project I started at the School of Information, what I call the China GeoTimes. Chinese version is the a aggregator of such contents, Chinese contents on the Chinese internet. That's the core of my work now, under the name I call it Counterpower Lab. I'll explain a little more what counterpower means to me and to this project. So this is not a direct translation of English, nor the English is translation of this. This website publishes currently anywhere between 100 to 150 or even sometimes 200 posts a day, run by me and two part-time assistants. So mostly automatically aggregating through the RSS feed, through different filtering mechanisms, and with some little bit of human assistance, and trying to aggregate information. What I described is censored, blocked, or marginalized in the Chinese cyberspace. I'll give you a few more examples to see how this will work. You'll see on this thing you have different blocks. For example, this one's called microblocks observation or microblocks watch. We pick the most dynamic and interesting microbloggers on a weekly or sometimes daily basis to highlight their contents at here. And how do we pick it? That's another issue. Totally by human, that's not good enough. We need help to identify who are the latest, hottest people follow, politically interesting, which is, after a while, I realize I'm looking at the same thing as internet censor looking. Yeah, they're trying to identify the same thing as I'm trying to identify. Sometimes I try to be a little bit faster than them so I can keep them and archive them. And sometimes I simply document the trace of the censorship and the resistance of the censorship, to the censorship. Then you will see, for example, these are from the news content from the blocked websites, BBC, Voice of America, Radio Free Asia. These are what I call the citizen blogs, which I'll come to them again, are Chinese bloggers, are mostly politically edgy and marginalized, however influential in their own ways, that I aggregate their contents to here. And in the middle, these are the ones our editor pick that even more, giving a more weight of those political contents. If you look at so mostly they're coming from here with the different categories. They're coming from here and here. So these are the content, Chinese contents, after some organization, ranking, cleanup, and highlight presentation to the China GeoTimes, the Chinese website. 100 posts a day. And from there, my further work is trying to read into it, interpret it, and trying to understand what does this tell us about China from this particular angle of censorship and resistance. So let me just to go on this map. Let's see, what should be the next one? This should be the next one. This is a theme I'm going to emphasize all the time. I call it the law of the grandmaster horse. Let me spend 1 minute to explain grandmaster horse. Who doesn't know grandmaster horse? Raise your hand. Oh, that's a lot of them. Okay. This is Apache. This is not really. Grasshopper is no such animal. It's a made-up animal by the Chinese netizens. It's a literary translate, but it's back to the Chinese characters. It means grass, mud, and horse. But if you pronounce in the Chinese character, unfortunately, it means a real nasty curse, something to your mother. Don't ever try it if you don't know Chinese and to your Chinese friends. Really, really offensive. I can only say this publicly in Berkeley. But here's another issue. The issue is this. Yes, on the internet, speech is not necessarily political. You have all kinds of those things, porn, obscene things, and people say outrageous things to each other. This is nothing juvenile. But this particular animal and the story and narrative, the icon, with that sort of words playing, cursive, offensive words, came from 2 years ago that internet lingo, a internet crackdown by the government, closed down a lot of political sites, but a lot of porn sites, and a lot of those what they come vulgar sites. Yeah, and it's that crackdown. Typically, I mean, like all the control mechanisms, annoyed, will get the pushback from the netizens a big time. And somebody made a video of a song, an adopted song, with this with a story in the lyrics. The lyrics go something like, "There is such thing called glass-mounted horse, and living in this particular place called Malag Desert, and then they live there happily and they're smart." But the river crabs came in to took their land, and they fight with the river crabs, and finally they win. And the river crab, in Chinese, in the Chinese character, if you pronounce it, it's pronounced, sounds same like harmony. And that's the government's slogan. When the government censorship something, the netizen call them, "Oh, my blog being harmonized again." And pretty soon it become, that's the name of the censor. River crab. The crab in Chinese language, it also means a bully. So on the internet lingo, that means censorship. And grass-mounted horse are the innocent, looks cute, but actually really offensive animals. They hate the grass-mounted, they hate the river crab. The narrative goes, they fight with the river crab, and finally, according to the song, they win. So that video becomes an online hit. And that word, and with this picture, and with all the subculture goes with it, you'll find all kinds of things goes with it. A river crab, and this is on the Chinese fashion magazine. It goes to the mainstream. See the crabs, and that means river crab. This is on Chinese paintings, the glass married the eating crabs. You go on and on and on those online pop culture that this is all about that grass-mounted house. This is the river crab, fighting with the river crab. So it's becoming a censorship and fighting with a censorship story. And the law of the grass-mounted horse, if I have to using my physics background, is called where there are river crabs, there are the grass-mounted horses. Internet censorship always meet resistance. Not only just meet resistance, you can always trace that resistance. Because no one, their posts being deleted, they just keep silence these days. They'll curse. They'll redistribute. They're trying to do something, to fight with it. And on the internet, you'll find the trace. So that resistance is something that you watch clearly. Even you cannot find the content, you'll find it somewhere else, you'll find the trace of it, and you'll find the alternative expression of those words. And that's why I call it the grass metaphors lexicon. The grass metaphors itself is a word. And for example, if you're familiar, here's another one. This is called, what's it called? Valley Dove. This came from the story of Google left China. And then somebody made up this story and translated it online, so here's another word. Because Valley Dove in Chinese sounds like Google. Right. So it goes, according to the American Indian legend, there's actually a Chinese Wikipedia page of it. The bird is a very important habit called don't be evil. Translated into Chinese means what? Fear river crabs. And why, et cetera, et cetera. And they cannot habitat in China, therefore they have to move to the migrate to south, et cetera, et cetera. So their whole entire political subculture resistance online becoming even mainstream. And these lexicons, hundreds of them, and daily, and coming out new and new, are the type of things that to clearly mark that political space. So if you look at China Geotimes in Chinese, and I have another project called China Digital Space, which is a wiki. What you're looking at is a news website, it's a news web blog, and here's a wiki. And here is those translated grass horse lexicon. You can read the English. Right? Love the future. Era of the passive. Free from turmoil. The translation, of course, never really catch that wordplay, the humor, the anger, the satire, or the cleverness out of all of this. But this are collectively created words that politically charged and represents what's online. Sometimes not words, they're expressions. And come back to the high-speed railway state crash, a train crash. The Ministry of Railway spokesperson who were sort of in front of everybody trying to explain some of the reasons, answer the questions. He couldn't answer questions. He doesn't want to answer questions, and he's very arrogant. So he gave something like nobody can possibly believe, ridiculous explanation of why they're trying to dig a hole and cover the evidence. And then he came out of this very famous sentence. He said, well, whether you believe it or not, I believe it. This is the Ministry of a Railway spokesperson in front of the whole country's media and trying to answer this 100 people died, dozen people died incident, the biggest incident. His words, whether you believe it or not, but I believe it. And that became the national meme. Of course, the satire of it is nobody believes what the government say. And that is kind of the language that was going online, and you can mark as a part of the resistance discourse. So I'm really behind the schedule. I can go on, but I'm going to quickly run so you will know what else I've been sort of following, tracking, and trying to cover. This is called 50 cents. That's another kind of political lingo, not from official propaganda, but from government-organized, undercovered agencies trying to be apologized of different government agencies or government policies. And they pretend it's a netizens talk, but they form another kind of political discourse. Again, you can identify them by keywords. Here are the online opinion leaders I'm trying to track, and some of them are playing a hugely role on this internet Chinese discourse. This is your familiar internet, if you know China, the artist Ai Weiwei, who just came out of prison but still being silenced, who was very outspoken on the internet. But not only him, there's many of others. This, what I call the information cascade, is when sometimes those political memes, even under a censorship situation, goes viral. When they go to viral, how they go to viral, why they go to viral, censors want to know it because they want to prevent it. I want to know it because I want to understand it through this to understand China. Now, these are what I call public events that set agendas set by the internet. The the propaganda department no more have the full control of what the media agenda is because they like it or not, those things go online, go vertically, go viral. Sometime, a lot of time, they control it. And sometimes they go viral. The question is when and why. Now, I'm not going to go here. This is my hypothesis of this kind of sun-pile paradigm coming from a complexity theory, that which is essentially saying that question, what I just asked, is not valid. That you never know which event will trigger a viral information cascade. But statistically, that's a system property. You always have someone according to a power law. Actually, I'll mention this, I'll say it. I haven't proved it, but I'll keep that in mind as a metaphor for my research of the Chinese internet. If you imagine a sand coming down on a flat table like this, and because of gravity, and you see a sun pile, and the sand keep on coming down continuously, and then what you see is avalanches from the top of the sand. They accumulate, and then all of a sudden it comes down, because you have to keep that critical slope of the sand pile. And if you measure the size of the avalanches, it's actually giving you a power law, just like an earthquake. Sometimes it goes the entire sand pile, sometimes it trickles a little bit. Most times it trickle a little bit. Why does that to do with the internet censorship? My guess is, or my metaphor is, if you want to measure those little events keep on generating on this larger complex system of the internet, even with friction, even with some dam trying to block those sand, no matter how you try it, some of those stories will go viral, and most of them don't because of the internet censorship. And statistically, there's always a power law. The point is, you never know which one particularly actually trigger that global avalanches, but some of them will do if you watch it long enough. And on the Chinese internet, that's getting more and more frequent. This is a digital resistance in exile. The people outside of China in a space like Twitter, even blocked by China, can do a lot. And this is where I'm going to call it measuring the Chinese political discourse. Well, let me see. How do I get there again with a full screen? How do I do? Sorry, I'm not great on this. How do I do them full screen? Okay, here it is. Okay, so what you see after the whole project, what I'm doing is trying to measure different political discourses and map them in certain ways to see how, what I call hidden discourses. Some are secret, like government instructions. They're not supposed to let the people know, but they've been leaked on the internet anyway. Or some of them are suppressed, like Tibetans or Taiwan independence or Tiananmen and other things. The government will delete them. However, they're still on the internet. And then what I call discordant, what are the grassmat horses, language play, humor, rumors, all these resistant discourse are in this space on the internet, lively and strong. And then you have the domination of main melody, legitimizing discourses, publicly from government propaganda. And you have this, what I call the reform discourse, universal values. You will see more and more Chinese netizens actually explicitly pro-free speech, pro-democracy, pro-human rights, value clear in the Chinese internet blogger sphere, dominant the blog sphere. That value. And that is, to me, a most interesting discussion that we should have. And you can measure by a certain set of keywords. What I call the trend is from voices under domination to universal value of discourses. So let me run very quickly to finish it, to explain this. This is a Nobel Peace Prize winner, Liu Xiaobo, a dissident. In China, it used to be these type of people, including myself, cannot go back to China. These type of people are political untouchables. They're totally outcasts of society, monitoring by the police every day if they're not being in jail. But what that relation to the grassmat horse, this is the day his wife posts on the internet that when she heard her husband in prison won the Nobel Peace Prize, she is celebrating with the picture with her favorite lovely grassmat horse. This anti-censorship icon goes with this political dissidents, converging the two discourses right there. And you want to see another one. This is a Chinese premier, current Chinese premier, who is very often appear as political liberal speeches in the party. And this is his public speech not too long ago. What he was saying, by quote, "The people's wish for and the needs for democracy and freedom are irresistible." You can say that's a political PR. You can say he said it, but he doesn't have enough power to deliver the political reform. You can say he is simply just buying some time strategically speaking that to the foreigners. Whatever it is, behind of the political lingo and speech is the Chinese leadership acknowledge what I just said, which is the value of pro-democracy and freedom speech, human rights, actually dominate on the internet political discourse right now, currently. And they have to acknowledge that as a public opinion, to a certain degree, and reflect to their speeches like this. This is my last show picture. But this is a reflect to a lot more work I do from now on in the next 2-3 years in the School of Information, what I call the Counterpower Lab, which partially that's relating to the Great Firewall. The person you saw, this one, is the president of Chinese Beijing University of the Post and Telecommunication, very important high technology university, and president of that university is a prestigious person, and himself is one of the top experts of Chinese computer internet security. He is also being known as the father of the Great Firewall. His name is Fang Bingxin, and on the Chinese internet, among Chinese netizens, he's the most hated person. Because people have a miserable internet experience because of him. Or his name symbolizes that censorship blocking effort. When you search a word, your browser being reset. When you're trying to using Gmail, your connection being disrupted. When you're trying to whatsoever access to a research document and you couldn't use your computer and internet properly. Because that fantastic technology called the Great Firewall, and he is the main architect of it. Just a few months ago, he was giving a speech. He was attending a meeting at one of the Chinese university, and one student threw a shoe at him. And of course, with the internet, it became a sensation story all over the country. And that student being called a national hero. And what's this picture? If you remember this one. And then this one said, this is the cover of a blogger's a book published in Hong Kong. It said something like, 22 years ago, I didn't stop you. And this time, you're not going to stop me. My research is about harnessing the distributive action of resistance to expand the free flow of information on the Chinese internet, whether through crowdsourcing, whether through aggregating, whether through actual circumvention technology and other methods. It's all about internet freedom. I invite you to join me. Thank you.
Thank you, Xiao. We won't have time for formal question and answer period today. We thank you for coming, and Xiao may be here for a few minutes afterwards.
Yeah, I can stay for a little longer.
But we need to sort of end the formal webcast. Thanks again. Next speaker in this series is next Wednesday, and if you're interested in the energy series, I for Energy every Friday. Thank you. Terrific.